Good Monday morning, everyone. Here we are. We've gotten this far into the book. We're at the round table of Nalvage, which is a very, very important, in my opinion, very important component in opening up those levels of consciousness necessary to receive good, clear Enochian visions. But anyway, this is my this is my tablet of Nalvage. It's made out of black wax. I'm going to talk about it in just a little while. Second part of today's talk. But anyway, we're starting a brand new section of Enochian Vision Magic, and it's technically we're beginning Book 4, and Book 4 is entitled Enochiana. And we've come through the Heptarchic period and we've come through the Loagaoth period, both of which are their own magical systems that aren't really operated. There's an abundance of material, but no material that has survived that has given us too much of a clue about how it actually worked. But the Enochian section, the Enochian system, actually gave us enough information to start operating the system. So we're going to talk about that now. So here we go. We'll start with a very, very, very short chapter 15, Enochian Magic. And it begins with an epigram, and the epigram is a quote from the angel Ave. And Ave is found, let's see, Ave is found on the Sigillum Dei Meth, which should give us a clue that Dee and Kelley were talking to angels off of this list. They're just not... This just isn't a roadmap of angels. Dee and Kelley were talking with these angels, and they were the ones giving the material, passing through the material that would eventually lead to the description of the system that we're getting ready to talk about. So if you're doing any experimental work with the Enochian system, it is not beyond the realm of possibility for you to figure out a way through meditation, prayer, or magical ritual to make contact with any one of the 49 main angels on the Sigillum Dei Meth. It's central to the system. The Lord appeared unto Enoch, and was merciful unto him, opened his eyes that he might see and judge the earth, which was unknown to his parents being Adam and Eve, by reason of their fall. For the Lord said, Let us shew unto Enoch the use of the earth. And lo, Enoch was wise and full of the spirit of wisdom. Now, that's not from the Bible. That's from the angel Ave talking to Dee and Kelley on Monday, June 25th, 1584. To my knowledge, Dee and Kelley never used the word Enochian to describe the system of magic they received between April 10th and July 13th, 1584. Throughout their actions, they simply referred to it as angelic. We cannot, however, be faulted too badly for attaching the biblical patriarch's name to the system. The magicians were told that this was the magic given by God to Enoch, the seventh man from Adam, in the form of a book that Enoch, before he ascended bodily into the presence of God, passed on to others. Over the generations, the book fell into wicked hands and God caused it to be lost. But because of Dee's piety and prayers, God was moved to once again deliver it unto mankind. Now, this is the mindset Dee and Kelley had gotten themselves into. And they needed to in order to bring in this material. Had they been pious some other religion, they would have received it through the mythos of that particular religion. But like I say, these final days were especially a difficult period in Dee and Kelley's relationship. They and their families were living in Krakow, Poland. Their actions were regularly interrupted by, quote, evil spirits, unquote, who encouraged the magicians to abandon the actions. Kelley was increasingly impatient and uncomfortable with the work, voicing his fear of the possible evil nature of the communications on one hand. Ironically, Kelley was at the same time practicing demon magic behind Dee's back. Dee was furious when he learned of this. So were the communicating angels, who warned that such behavior attracted evil spirits into the magician's environment, an annoying and time-consuming distraction. Finally, Dee promised Dee and the angels that he would knock off the black magic. The angels, too, appeared to be growing impatient with Dee and Kelley, as if they realized the magical chemistry that existed between the two magicians, the personal factors that made them such a perfect operator-receiver team, was rapidly deteriorating. In April, the magicians were told in no uncertain terms that the work had to be completed by August. The magicians met their deadline with time to spare. July 13th, 1584, Dee's 57th birthday. He was just a kid. Dee's 57th birthday saw the final communication that completed the reception of the angelic calls and provided the names of the 30 Aethers. Not only had the Enochian phase of Dee and Kelley's operations ended, but indeed, the entire angelic adventure had also come to a close. The plug was pulled. The communicating angels fell silent. The magicians would continue on and off for several years with visionary operations and unsuccessful mago-political adventures in Europe. But with the exception of only 3 brief references in their subsequent diaries, they never again mentioned angelic magic. One of those latter-day references, the Tabula Recensia, however, is very significant to the study of the Enochian magic period, and I'll speak more of that very soon. The reception of the Enochian material was, at least to my impatient attention span, even more confused and topsy-turvy than that which characterized the Heptarchia and the Liber Logoth periods. Sadly, as we discovered in the 2 earlier cases, the surviving information, while abundant, still does not provide us with adequate information on how it was all supposed to work as a practical system of magic. And here is where we must again tip our magical hats to S.L. McGregor Mathers, the adepts of the Golden Dawn, and Aleister Crowley, who at the dawn of the 20th century developed this material. We're talking about the Enochian material, in a remarkably logical system of vision magic, a system possessed of a solid infrastructure lacking in the surviving source material, a system that, for all intents and purposes, offered the diligent practitioner a practical and elegant unified field theory of Hermetic and Kabbalistic magic. As applied most commonly today, Enochian magic is a two-part magical system. One part focusing on the elemental universe, the other on the etheric. The former enables the magician to summon or visit in vision the spirits of the myriad levels of the elemental worlds of fire, water, air, earth, and spirit. The latter enables the magician to systematically penetrate increasingly higher heavens or aethers to access information from those heavenly levels of consciousness. I will soon show how these two systems are operated, but before I do that, and in keeping with our original program of systematic attunement, I need to introduce you to yet another magic table. It was the first revelation of the Enochian period, but it is also, in my opinion, the final component in the preparation protocol. This tablet was delivered to the magicians by the angel Nalvij in April of 1584. It is an item that was acknowledged by the adepts of the Golden Dawn, but never incorporated into any practice. It is something, however, I believe should not escape our attention. No name is given to the object. Some modern scholars designate it simply the Tablet of God, and I shall refer to it as the Round Table of Nalvij. Now, I've posted a couple images of the Round Table of Nalvij, which should appear just directly below this video on my Facebook page, so you can refer to it. So we're going to start chapter 16. But we'll finish it up tomorrow. But I wanted to start it today. The Round Table of Nalvij. And I'm going to hold this up while I read the little epigram here. Let's see. The order and knitting together of the parts in their due and perfect proportion. God, the Holy Ghost. Lo, the beginning and the end of all things. That's quoting Nalvij, the angel Nalvij, April 10th, 1584. The method of science, the aim of religion, was the official motto of the Equinox, the great magical periodical first published by Aleister Crowley and his colleagues in the early years of the 20th century. This same phrase could also comfortably serve as the watchwords that describe what the art of magic is to me. Conversely, superstition, as the word is commonly understood, has, in my opinion, no place in the arsenal of the modern magician. This, I believe, is especially true concerning the practice of Enochian magic. In all my years of magical practice and exploration of this system, I've never encountered a single case of so-called psychic attack, demon possession, headache, hives, hernia, indeed any ill effects whatsoever resulting from the practice of this particular kind of magic. That being said, strange and unexpected things do occasionally happen to those who practice magic. And while I believe it's bad for one's mental health to ascribe undue importance to these phenomena, it is important that they be dispassionately observed and recorded. So, before I discuss the Round Table of Nalvage and its importance to the system of Enochian magic, I feel I must share with you two little stories that might help you understand the level of respect I hold for this particular magical object. Let's see, what time is it? Do you want me to? Oh, do you want me to go on? Okay. I'll go on. 20 years ago, that was 20 years ago when this was written, I was teaching a class in Enochian vision magic at our home in Costa Mesa. This class was different from the Enochian magic classes I'd taught previously, for it was the first time we would study and experiment with using the Round Table of Nalvage, Tablet of Nalvage. In preparation for the class, I decided to make a copy of the table out of wax, as I had done with my Sigillum Diameth. A friend had given me two massive black wax candles shaped like giant chessmen, bishops, giant bishop black wax candles. My plan was to melt these down in a round Christmas cookie tin and carve the squares and the angelic letters of the Tablet of Nalvage on the cooled wax disc. Okay, so, and spoiler alert, this is the end product of that. This is the, or at least a lot of those black wax bishops. Okay. It was a foolish time to be starting an arts project like this because our landlord had just informed us he was bulldozing our house in 2 weeks and building apartments on our lot. Thanks a lot. And we were deep in the midst of packing up our things to move. Still, magic is magic and life goes on. I put the two black wax bishops in the cookie tin and slid them into the oven. I'll pause here and say, kids, don't do this at home. I set the heat on the lowest level possible, warm level, and then went out to the garage to help, or at least watch, Constance packing. As you might imagine, we had some very interesting things in our garage, many of which we haven't looked at in years. We did more reminiscing than packing. I didn't forget the black wax bishops in the oven, however, and checked on them regularly, and it seemed that they were taking a long time to melt. So I turned the heat up a little. Back out in the garage, we found a stash of psychedelic artwork Constance had painted and drawn in the late 60s, when we were hippies living in the woods of southern Oregon. We hadn't seen them in 15 years. What a treat. We lingered over them for probably 10 minutes before I remembered the black wax bishops for the round tablet of Nalvage in the oven. When I opened the back door, I found the kitchen dark, except for a warm orange glow that like a spectacular sunset, brightened the dark clouds of smoke that filled the house from the ceiling to about 4 feet from the floor. The oven was completely engulfed in flames. I ran to the living room and found our son, Jean-Paul, lying on the floor watching television, completely oblivious to the black smoke pressing its way toward him from above. Once he and the dog were evacuated, I called for Constance, always a level head at times of emergencies, and we proceeded to attack the fire. When I opened the flaming oven, I discovered that one of the bishops had slid to the side of the cookie tin, and parts of it had melted down the outside rim. The wax had run to the bottom of the oven and dripped down upon the pilot light, which then became the eternal flame of Costa Mesa. There was nothing we could do to turn off the oven. Constance eventually had to turn off the gas outside, and with the help of baking soda and wet towels, we got the fire out. I rescued the cookie tin and let it cool in the sink. A couple hours later, in the charred ruins of our kitchen, I carved the black wax tablet of Nalvage. There. All it took was burning our house down. We were going to move anyway. Let's see. Now, I'm the first to confess that this story has less to do with magic and superstition and more to do with my carelessness and stupidity. I'm now forbidden to use the oven for magical artifacts. The accident did, however, serve to give me a healthy respect for the round tablet of Nalvage, a respect that in the last year has increased immeasurably. And that brings me to my second story, Magical Tale of Nalvage. Let's see, what time is it? It's pretty short. Do you want me to go on? I will. I will anyway. It's very short. As we'll soon see, there is much we know about the round tablet of Nalvage. What we don't know is how it was intended to be used. As I was preparing for the class series that inspired this book, I debated with myself how or even if I was going to introduce it into our studies, introduce Tablet of Nalvage. After all, there's nothing in the source material that hints as to what is to be done with it. Late in the afternoon, I prepared our living room temple for the evening's class. The sigillum and ensigns were set neatly on the holy table. The table was covered with its red silk cloth, and the obsidian mirror was set in place. I went to the closet cupboard in my office. You're seeing it covered with curtains right behind me here. Let's see. I went to the closet cupboard of my office and took down my black wax tablet of Nalvage from the topmost shelf. I unzipped its plastic bubble wrap envelope and carefully removed it. I have to admit, after all those years, it still looked magnificently magical. I took it into the living room and set it down on the covered table. I sat down in my comfy chair, and if you've been to Monday night class, you know what my comfy chair is. And in the warm glow of sunset, which brought to my mind the glow of our blazing kitchen so many years earlier, I meditated about how the round table of Nalvage fits into the system. I didn't get much meditating done because the moment I closed my eyes, and I fell asleep. I woke just minutes before people would start arriving for class. I still didn't know how or if I was going to use the tablet for the night's gathering. I hastily decided that if I didn't have sound reasons for using the tablet, I was going to skip it altogether, at least for that night. I took the tablet off the holy table, wrapped it back up, and carefully put it back on the top shelf of the closet cupboard. I went to my desk to turn off the computer and gathered things for class, when I was startled by the sound of something smashing against my guitar, which was mounted upright in its stand near the open closet door, or the curtains at that time. With the guitar strings still ringing, I turned to see that the tablet of Nalvage had flown from its shelf, ricocheted off my guitar, and was resting inches from my feet. As a reasonably rational man, I'm of the opinion that there is nothing supernatural in the world, just natural things that have yet to be explained. I'm sure there is nothing I can say to convince the cynic that the tablet hadn't fallen naturally from the shelf because I hadn't put it back properly. I remain, however, extremely impressed at the distance this object had to travel across the physical space in order to strike the guitar and find its way to my feet at the very moment I had decided not to discuss it at that evening's class. Needless to say, I changed my mind about the importance of the tablet, and in the few minutes remaining before class members started arriving, I composed the two-part chorus that incorporates the dynamics created by the letters of the Round Table of Nalvage, a chant that has become the last and perhaps the most important component of our ceremony of preparation. And that's where we'll stop our reading for today. We'll look in detail upon the construction of the lamen, but I do want to show you something. The Table of Nalvage now has two very conspicuous chunks. I wish I could show you. There we see the, how can I do this? That chunk right there is where it hit my guitar. You can sort of see it right there. It's a little hard to see. But anyway, and as it rolled to my feet, there's more damage done. Anyway, that's the story, the wonder story of my tablet of Nalvage. Anyway, we went way over today. You'll be late for work. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.